And when we started to see families step into financial abundance and then like the transformation that comes from entrepreneurship, it was like, oh, this is like what we're supposed to do.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Baktari MD. As you know, this season we're doing Crash CEO School, where we go over all the skill sets you need to move your organization ahead, get to the next level, the skill sets that will make you a better leader, a more effective leader. And today I have an amazing couple, Stephen and Chelsey Diaz, and they are in charge of the Rainmaker family. They're the founders, which is an amazing organization. And I'm having them on the show because they were able to walk away from I believe, a wedding photography business back in 2017 and set up their own company, their own organization, which has given them the freedom they need to, one, grow a family as well as being financially independent. And then they've taken it a step further. They're now helping others through the course that they've developed to do the exact same thing. And what I found fascinating about their story is that, one, they literally pivoted in the middle of sort of working, I don't want to say 9 to 5, but it was probably much more than 9 to 5. And then they pivoted to lead an organization where they have financial freedom, time freedom, and in the meantime have acquired a lot of leadership skills to manage all of that. So I'm very excited about having him on the show because I want people to see what can happen when you elevate your game and acquire new skill sets, both in terms of business, in terms of people skills, in terms of leadership skills, to set up an organization where the sky simply is the limit. So, Stephen and Chelsey, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being our guests.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here and serve your audience.
Well, thank you. You know what? I think I stole a little bit of your thunder, but you know what? If you don't mind, in your own words, talk to me about pre 2017, post 2017, about you, your family, what you guys were doing, and then what happened at around that time.
Yeah, at the time we were in the wedding business. We got married super young. We actually started this business before we were married. I think we were in college still. And it was because I was a film major. I was into video, and Chelsea had a camera as a hobby, would just take photos. And we just had friends encourage us, hey, you guys should do a business together, shoot weddings or something. And it was just kind of like, hey, this makes sense. Let's try it. And we were young, our friends were getting married, and they would, hey, come shoot our wedding. And before we knew it, we had a business on our hands. And I was always very entrepreneurial. And Chelsea was actually studying something else, but I convinced her to basically let's just go all in on this entrepreneurial thing. Let's run our own business, kind of create our own
Yeah,
terms. And like you said, you end up not working 9 to 5, you end up working all the time.
yeah.
And yeah, so that's what we did in the early days of our marriage. We actually had that business for 10 years. So every Saturday, basically during wedding season, we'd be out shooting weddings. And we at the time lived in this small little back unit. It was like, one bed, one bath, had this tiny little
Mm.
spiral staircase that I don't think was up to code. And we would work in the loft up there. I'm pretty tall. You can't tell on camera. So I'd have to like duck down to get to my computer and edit these photos. And that's really where our entrepreneurship journey started.
Yeah, well, I give you credit now that I've even heard that part of the story that you guys at least did that because you didn't. I mean, a lot of people would just take a 9 to 5 job or work for another studio or whatever. So there must have been some early inklings of entrepreneurship, even as I hear that story, because uh, that certainly is not guaranteed money. If you take a month vacation, your revenue dries up. So that's usually what people don't like, and they want to have a steady job. So my inkling from hearing the story is early on there was a spark of we want more and we don't want to just clock in and out and
Yeah.
just call it a day. Okay, so I get this question all the time from people who pivoted a career. So let me give you the question I always get. So what happened? I mean, I know you before we started the show, you told me there's some burnout, but was there something that like one day you said, that's it, we got to go a different direction. We have to do more than just come in and grind it out week after week. Was there anything pivotal that you recall that broke the straw that broke the camel's back?
Mm. I think when we got started in that wedding business, we just always were looking ahead, like what is our life going to look like 10 years, 15, 20 years from now? And I think both of us didn't necessarily envision photographing weddings, although it was very meaningful and we loved that. But we wanted to start a family one day, and we were traveling all the time, working all of these weddings, crazy hours. And we just knew, even though we were young, we just knew like this is not a sustainable lifestyle that we can continue living. And it was just really in that season of burnout. I think we shot 43 weddings, 8 weddings in May, and our friends stopped calling us. Our family kept saying things like, you're so busy. We never see you. And
Yeah,
after those words over and over, you start to think, take a step back and say, like, is this
yeah,
really the life that we're wanting to create? And so it was
yeah.
those years, we lovingly call them now the spaghetti years, where you just, take pasta, throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. So we were trying everything. And that was really when we stumbled into Amazon FBA, which is now what we teach, and brought our family so much freedom.
I love it. I like that spaghetti analogy because the side hustle thing, I think a lot of people try a side hustle, one or two, it doesn't work out, and they just go, okay, I guess I'm meant to work 9 to 5,
Mm.
or they lose a little bit of money on that first couple of side hustles. What I always tell people, sometimes it may be your 20th or 30th side hustle that turns out to be the one. It's sort of like, before you got married and dating, you're not going to marry the first person you go on a date with. I mean, not statistically at least.
Mhm.
So the whole idea of not letting failures
Mhm.
determine the arc of your future. So even if I'm sure some of those spaghettis didn't work out the way you
Oh yeah.
imagined, right? And if you had just given up then, talk about that. What made you guys be persistent, even when the first 5 or 10 things, I'm assuming, were a
Yeah.
complete bust?
Yeah. I mean, I think the most frustrating part was probably that it's not that everything was a scam or nothing worked. It was that all of them worked just a tiny bit, right?
Right.
And I think I didn't have the right compass. So I was more the crazy side hustler. Chelsey was holding down the fort, keeping our
Mm.
clients happy on the wedding side. So thank God for her, because I'd
Yeah.
be at night, kind of after our 9 to 5, on the internet, watching webinars, buying programs, trying to figure out something. And I feel like I didn't have the right compass. Now I know the term for it is like I was looking for leverage,
Mhm.
but I was kind of falling into these like passive income type opportunities that seemed too good to be true. And a lot of times the spaghetti we were throwing would just add more stress to our plate, add more time to our plate. Like,
Right.
naturally it was like, hey, we're shooting weddings. We see photo booths at weddings. Why don't we buy a photo booth? Right. That's a good idea. And now we have this photo booth we're stressing out at weddings, and like, oh, the tech is, going off the wire. And we were getting into the wrong opportunities. But we did start selling some physical products online. That was one of the side hustles that we started trying. And that was the one where we started to taste a little bit of this leverage, where it was like, wow, we put in
Mhm.
some work to build this thing, but then it started to work without us there. And I think
Right.
that someone put language on this in that time. We went to a conference, and he was like, you need to get out of, vehicles where you are the person doing the thing. If
Right.
you're the person doing the thing, you're using your hands to do the job, like
Right.
your income is automatically limited. Even if you're a brain surgeon, like you only have so much time. So you have to level up to a person that can build a system, like manage people to do the thing.
Mhm.
And so when we started selling products online, e-commerce, that was the first time we started to really taste, okay, wow, like other people are doing a lot of the work, and that's what we call leveraged income now. So as soon as we realized that, we started to
Mhm.
really trim off all the other side hustles and things that were really just overextending us.
Yeah, I've heard people say the same thing. They say, you know what, when I was looking for my side hustle, tell me if this makes sense to you. When I was looking for my side hustle, one of the ways I would filter it was not by the economic opportunity. The first question that people say is, does this involve me being there?
Yeah.
Because tell me the performer later. Tell me how much money I can make later. does it involve me being there? Because if it does, and it may be great money, but I only have so many hours in the day, and that can't be the ceiling. And so I think what I'm hearing from you is the leverage concept is, yes, I may have to be there a little bit and maybe less over time, but can I come up with an opportunity where it's not reliant on me physically being there? Because obviously, if you didn't show up to those weddings to take those pictures, you weren't getting paid.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if you took a month off with no weddings, you weren't going to get paid, maybe. So I think the transition to go into something where it doesn't rely on you physically being there to actually generate the revenue. Am I saying that correctly?
It's perfect. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so you did that, and then you started to take courses and go to webinars and different things to educate you on this Amazon business from what you told me earlier and now. Uh, you, how difficult was it to have enough mindset that I need to get additional information versus, I'm a pretty bright guy. I could figure this out. Let me just go open up an Amazon account and, you know, because I think there are certain people that just feel like it's not brain surgery. You're not splitting the atom here, trying to
Mhm.
sell a couple of widgets on Amazon. Why do I have to take a course, or why do I have to do this? Because, I'll just read the instructions, I'll watch a YouTube video, and boom, I'm there.
I think we'd seen the power of investing in education or getting in the room with other people that have gone further and faster than you in our early days when we were actually in the wedding industry. So before we even ventured into Amazon or internet marketing or anything that we're sharing about today, it was in those early days of our wedding business. I had followed a photographer on social media for a long time, and I loved the life that she was creating and how she was outsourcing things and encouraging other photographers to do the same thing. I read every single blog post she ever put out, and I learned so much from her. And when I found out she was speaking at a very well-known like conference, creative photography conference, I turned to Stephen and I was like, we have to go. Like, we have to go and do this. And it was expensive for us. It was clear across the country. We're super young entrepreneurs. We knew absolutely no one, but I knew that she was going to be there. And I was like, I want to get in the room and I want to hear her speak. And I'm so glad we did. It was definitely a financial sacrifice for us at the time, but I got in the room. And I remember like my hand hurt so badly from all the notes I had taken. Like, I had pages from speakers and specifically from her talk. She gave like a 10-point talk about like 10 tips you can take to, increase and create systems. And I don't remember exactly what she talked about, but all of those points I went and implemented immediately. And we
Mhm.
had an increase in like the revenue we generated from our business and from the systems, and even from like the amount of peace that I felt in running our business just from getting in the room, just from traveling across the country. And I just remember walking away from that conference and looking at Stephen again. And we just made a commitment that like we were going to invest in some kind of education and some kind of course, conference, at least at minimum once a year, because I had seen the power of even just that one time that we stepped in. And again, I had consumed all of her free content. I had read every single blog post, but there's just something about that next level of getting
Yes.
in the room and being connected that was so powerful. So that sent us on to now, like, we will never not invest in some kind of spiritual or coaching or business like masterminds because they're so powerful.
Well, I actually have a whole podcast episode talking about finding mentors and
Mm,
going to conferences. I literally,
that's amazing.
I mean, because the power of that. But let's reverse engineer it. Let's say you didn't go to that conference, and
Mm.
let's just say you tried to do this whole Amazon thing by just you know, reading a few blogs and just calling Amazon. And what is the likelihood that you would be one successful, or you would be anywhere near where you are without the mentoring and the extra education? Statistically, I mean, your path. Would you be here? Would you without that?
I don't think so, because I mean, with any entrepreneurship journey, there's going to be walls that come up. And of course, like, you can find ways around the walls, but Amazon is it was so outside of our, like, we were creative entrepreneurs, filmmakers, photographers. Like, I knew cameras really well. If I had a problem with my camera, I could figure it out. But
Yeah.
e-commerce, manufacturing, shipping, these are all like so foreign to me. And I
Mhm.
didn't even know anyone in my life doing these things, you know?
Mhm.
So it was so foreign that I was like, I need to, it's like, if you're going to go to another country, live with someone who speaks the language. That's the fastest way you're going to learn, right? Instead of just trying to watch a couple YouTube videos, there's a
Mhm.
big
Yes.
difference. And so for us, I think the likelihood of success would have been way lower without mentorship and investing in courses. And over the years, we kind of bought all the courses, continue to invest in mentorship, and also you learn on the job, right? You learn from actually doing the thing. And we made some pretty big mistakes in those early years on Amazon as well. Lost money, made money, all the things. And that became things that we would start teaching people that were coming behind us. Like, hey, don't do
Right.
what we did,
Right.
and here you can learn from our mistakes.
Which is really what mentorship and investing in learning is all about. You don't have to make every single mistake that someone who is starting in your industry will make, probably naturally, because of just the way things are set up. Okay, so let's move forward. So you get through this Amazon thing, you're a success, and then another light bulb goes off. Talk to me about that. It says, you know what? We could teach other people. I know you said you first started doing it as friends and family, but
Yeah.
when did you actually say, we've learned so much, we think we have an insight into the secret sauce of how to make this work. I wonder if there's a market out there besides my friends and family, and can I convert my knowledge of this secret sauce into a business?
Hmm. Yeah.
Earl, yeah, walk me through what you guys were saying to each other at that point.
Yeah. I think like the big conviction moment, I would say, came when we were at a wedding.
Mhm.
This was during a super busy season, and we pulled up our phone and literally had made more on Amazon that day than we made at the wedding. I think that's when like it clicked fully for Chelsea, I would
Yeah.
say. Like, because I was into it, kind of building on the side. She's supporting it. She's like, hey, hey, we need to buy inventory. Yeah, like we were doing that together, but I don't think she had seen the vision of Amazon until
Mhm.
that moment.
Yeah, and I think we call it our winter season. So the winter months, weddings, people aren't getting married usually in December and January. And every single winter season, I would physically feel like the weight of the world on my shoulders. Like, how would we ever have a family? I think women, especially, like, we want security, we want to feel safe. And every winter season, I would question that. And
Mm.
it wasn't that we didn't have wedding clients that were singing our praises and getting referrals. It was just like, this just isn't going to work long term. And so I would feel that every winter season. And that light bulb moment that Stephen was just talking about, like, that was for me so incredible to be at a wedding that we're already getting paid a large amount of money for, but then to be looking at this other business that Stephen was just kind of, I felt like dinkering with, like on the side, make more money. And it was literally in that moment that I felt that weight that I had always felt lift off of me. And as I look back on that moment now, I feel like I wasn't just the weight that I was carrying for our family, but I feel like I was feeling this weight for other families, for other mamas that we now serve, that also to this day, I mean, like, that feel that weight of like, there has to be something more. Like, I want a business that I can own and serve. And I feel like it was this collective thing of like, we now have like a resource. We now have a proven method that works and can lift that, like, that feeling. And it's like, why wouldn't we share that with more people? Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't we offer that feeling that I experienced to somebody else? And so for me, I have that deep conviction in that moment of like, we have to tell everyone, like, who wants to hear, like, this
Yeah.
really does work.
So that's what we started doing. We started basically telling our photographer friends, because it was
Yeah.
like we were in, the winter season. All the
Yeah.
photographers are like, "Oh no, how's the next season?" Because your
Yes.
income is so like seasonal.
Hmm.
So we started just like I posted in the photographer Facebook group like, "Hey, we did this thing this last year. Now we're able to like take on dream weddings because we don't have to say yes to every client. We're not worried in the winter season when the banquet's just getting drained."
Hmm.
And so, a couple people raised their hand, teach me. And I honestly learned that I would kind of more master the information if I had to teach it.
Hmm.
So I'd have to like go deeper on it. And it just helped me be a better Amazon seller.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like our family, we told our family, my mom was like, I want to do it too. So I had like a little Facebook group that I
Yeah.
would just go, I would like post videos in every week and say, hey, Queen, now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do that. And I mean, there's probably 100 people in that group. I think I remember back to about 100 people in that group. Out of those 100 people, I mean, no one paid money to be in there, right? So most people didn't pay attention. But there were two people that really paid attention and really did the thing. One was my mom. She ended up launching a couple products on Amazon. And the other was this gal, Sharon. She was like a wife of a videographer who was in that group. And he was like, hey, you should check this out. And Sharon went on to build a multi seven-figure brand, like
Wow.
do it over $1 million a year on Amazon. It took her about 2 or 3 years to get that level. And I mean, a business generates $100,000 in revenue plus per month for her family. And so that was, I think, when I started to see her winning, it was like, whoa. I think weddings for us was a lot about legacy. It was powerful to take a photo that wasn't just like an iPhone photo. It was something that would live on. It was something that grandkids would look at and be like, that was grandpa, John. And like that, there's something about that legacy piece, I think, for us. And when we started to see families step into financial abundance and then like the transformation that comes from entrepreneurship, it was like, oh, this is like what we're supposed to do, like
Yeah.
this.
No, I get it. But you know what? As I'm hearing the story, I had an epiphany listening to you guys. Remember, early on I asked you what was the straw that broke the camel's back that you guys walked away. But now I really get it. I think your Amazon journey really started when you guys started your wedding photography business, because you chose to go into something that wasn't 9 to 5 already. And the problem I have when people who are watching this and saying, oh, maybe I could do an Amazon, but a lot of them are getting a steady paycheck. They
Mm,
don't have to worry about December and January being slow. They get the same paycheck in December and January as they do every other month. So I think actually the biggest thing that hold people back, and I think the biggest thing that may have pushed you guys over, let's say you had come out of college and just gotten a job
mm.
doing photography, but it was 9 to 5, someone signs your paycheck.
eNational testing makes getting a simple laboratory test as easy as ordering something online. With 3 simple steps, you can have your tests ordered for STDs, general health, allergy testing, diabetes screening, blood titers, and more. You can simply go in for testing the same day and get your results quickly to your email. eNationalTesting.com's complete healthcare panels come with easy-to-understand results at over 2,700 locations nationwide. It's time to focus on yourself. eNationalTesting.com. Easy, convenient, and tailored to your health needs.
I'm wondering if you would have, like you said, you're sitting there like worried, oh my gosh. Without that worry, without that thing gnawing at you, you don't take risks like that. You don't say, let's go all in on Amazon, or you may not. And
Yeah.
so what I always tell people, even if you do have a job, because some people who take your course, they're not all like, they have 9 to 5 jobs. Some of them
Yeah.
just are. But how do you convince someone who's got a 9 to 5 job, gets a paycheck every 2 weeks? They're not sitting around saying November, December, whatever's going to be bad. It's every month's the same. Every day is the same.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is pretend like you're not going to get a paycheck in November and December to recreate that stress that you felt, to get them off the ledge and make them take a risk and take your course and or do Amazon. But it's interesting because without that uncertainty, a lot of people are not prepared to take some of the risks you guys took. Do you want to talk about that? That how important was that uncertainty, and whether if you didn't have that uncertainty, would you have been as desperate to come up with a solution?
Yeah. I think, yeah, sometimes those painful moments or the friction or the, how I'm feeling overextended, that is the thing that gives you the faith to take like the leap of faith, so to say.
Okay, then what would you, if I'm one of your potential customers for your course, but I've got a 9 to 5 job,
Yeah.
I'm making 60K a year, 70K a year, whatever.
Mhm.
How do you, so talk to me, like, why should I take all this risk when, this thing is okay? It's not great, but I'm okay.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people thought they were okay in 2020, and we thought we were okay. We were still shooting weddings in early 2020, and then our entire wedding season was canceled. And
Right.
Luckily, I feel like miraculously we had Rainmaker set up, and guess what? Everyone was home now. Everyone didn't have jobs.
Oh,
People were
I
getting laid
see.
off.
That's
Mm.
And so
perfect.
that was a blow. Like we helped so many families throughout that year who thought
Mhm.
their job was secure. So I think jobs like 9 to 5 jobs, I think there's this false security. And so
Yes.
entrepreneurship really gives you, again, there's
Mhm.
nothing that is really secure, but it gives you a feeling of a little bit more security because you're like, I control this thing. It's not
Mhm.
someone else's decision or some
Yeah.
board member who's just like, oh, we're going to cut this department and then your job's gone.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think for a lot of our moms now, like when we started this Amazon coaching program, it was a lot of stay-at-home moms. Now it's honestly a lot of corporate moms. And for them, they just desire to be there for their kids more. They desire to retire their husband who's overworking. And I think in the
Mhm.
economy that we live in, I mean, you look at, what it takes to even buy a home compared to your income nowadays compared to like 50 years ago. Things have really changed. You can't like
Mhm.
it's hard to have a single family or single spouse income, right? And live on that with
Right.
a family. And so a lot of our moms, they're feeling like they're kind of living paycheck to paycheck, even if they have a low six-figure job. It's like, wow, like we're just really have enough, but they're ready for more. They're like, I want to leave beyond like money to my kids. I want to, be able to send my kids to college. I want to be able to travel when we want to travel. So a lot of the people that come to us now, they're like, they have enough. They're not scraping by. Like, we have helped those people. Like Sharon was one of those people that was just, I mean, scraping by, really scrappy in
Right.
the beginning of their business. And we have resources for that. But a lot of people that come to us now, they're kind of like, we're maintaining, but we dream for so much more. And a lot of times the dream is attached to something else too. Like I want to start an orphanage in Africa and they have like this big dream, but they don't see how their current job will create the wealth to do that type of
Right.
impactful thing.
So I'm glad you shared that. So your motives can be financial. It can be, you want more out of life. You want to make an impact.
Mhm.
You want to make an impact in the world for your family. So it can be all sorts of things. I want to move on to the next thing, which is, we talked offline that you've grown your organization, the Rainmaker family. You have 75 people that work for you, either directly or indirectly. It's a big organization, and we talked about some of the strategies. But talk to me about what leadership skills you need to acquire to manage an organization like that. I'm
Mm.
sure if we went in a time machine and plucked you from 10 years ago and put you in charge of all these people, it might not go as well as
Yeah.
it's going well. What
Mhm.
what what did you realize you need to learn other than being a nice guy
Mhm.
that you can, because you must have tough conversations, uh, some good, some bad, some critical. Some people you have to encourage, some people you may have to let go, some people you have to mentor. Uh, and when do you turn on the mentoring switch? When do you turn on the critical switch? When do you hire? When do you fire? How do you enroll people? How do you build culture so everyone's on the same page? You didn't have, assuming, those skill sets back
Mhm.
in 2017. Tell me about that journey to realizing you needed them and how you got them and what that transformation looked like.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. I feel like, I mean, I kind of come back to 2020, early 2020, we started to really see an increase. It was like February 2020, right before the world kind of shut down. We started to see a big increase. We were running challenges. So just for your listeners that know, we have our Amazon business, then we have our Amazon coaching business where we teach people how to do what we do on Amazon. And this, like what takes up the primary amount of our time and where we put a lot of our effort in is the coaching business because the Amazon business is fairly leveraged. It's fairly passive. So 2020, we do a challenge, which is like, hey, anyone want to learn about Amazon? Come on in. We'll do a 7-day challenge. And normally our challenges would have, 50, 100 people in them. This challenge had 3,000 people in it. 3,000 people came into
That's
this challenge.
insane.
And we spent a good amount of money on marketing and it just was working well. So I just, hey, put pedal to the metal. Let's put people in here. Let's impact a lot of families. And doing the math, we're kind of like, marketing, you kind of figure out percentages. You're like, typically 10% of people might jump into our coaching program after this challenge and want to work with us more in depth. And so at the time, I was just coaching people. Chelsea's keeping the wedding business running, and I was just doing one-on-ones with people. I'm like, I can't take on 300 students one-on-one and provide the same level of service and value and feedback. And at
Mhm.
the time, our business had been going for a couple of years. We had a handful of six-figure sellers at the time that were doing over six figures, $100,000 a year in their business. So I approached some of those people and I was like, hey, I would love to have you do what I'm doing and coach. And it was very informal at the time. Now we have a full coaching certification and process and application they go through. But at the time I was like, I just saw the need and I was like, let's find a solution for the need. And so I think uh just to encourage entrepreneurs wherever you're at in the journey, I feel like you're never really led into a battle that you're not already prepared for. I think it can feel like you're unprepared at moments, but if you look back, like oftentimes there's convergence of, like those people were there. I just had to kind of look for them. And we're big believers in like, if you focus not on your current resources, but your resourcefulness, it makes you
Mhm.
think like
Mm.
outside the box. And that's how we got our first team members. And our nanny at the time, we just had a newborn. So we had a nanny.
Mhm.
We're doing the challenge. She's like holding the baby. Like I'm like, we need help with emails. We're getting all these customer support emails. So she's like jumping in the inbox with one hand, answering emails. And so we just kind of got by. And so I think like in those early days of the business really starting to grow, it was really like, we grew to a point where it hurt. And I was like, okay, we can't all be doing emails till 3 a.m. Like we need a
Mhm.
person. And that's how you start hiring and getting into that. And
But where did you get the skill sets? Because I mean, if when you hire large volumes of people,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
then you get a full dose of what HR is like and
Mhm.
dealing with different personalities and how did you navigate those skill sets? Because as anyone who's tried to grow a large organization, there's dramas, there's this, there's that, it's a lot. You have to have policies,
Yeah.
procedures. You have to,
Like
yeah. Where did you
I'm
go to?
laughing because like when you say it, I don't want to sound dumb, but like I honestly didn't really know what HR was until like last year. And so I mean, last year, our business did $20 million,
Yeah.
so like we have really grown this thing, like really learning only what we needed to learn. And I think the one benefit that helped us is almost all of our hires up until about 2021 came from the program. So we had
I
already
see.
changed their life and become their mentor and led them. Like they had watched hours and hours of me talking without me even talking to them. Right.
Mhm.
And so we had changed their life. They built this Amazon business that created some transformation in them alone. Like they had to level up their life and their leadership within
Mhm.
themselves. So a lot of the people that started working for us in the inbox and in coaching, they had come through our mentorship almost for a year or two already, which that's very unique. Now we're
Mm.
at the place in our business where it makes sense to hire outside of our community and find people that have gone before us into territory that this is all uncharted territory. We've never grown an eight-figure business before. So now we're starting to really develop HR and hiring and recruiting and onboarding and all those things. But I think very much we have learned as we gone and tried to really focus on what is the need of today, not what's the need of tomorrow.
Mhm. And I think those early hires went off of a lot of our intuition of like, can we trust this person?
Yeah.
And do they have the character and the trust of if I handed a mama a student off to them, would they take care of this person? And that's what we went off of a long time. We didn't have a handbook, we didn't have all this extra leadership experience. And even though our organization has grown and we have very intense, hiring and what we look for, and we want people that are thinking outside of the box and have built things beyond Stephen and I, we always go back to the character of the person. Like, how are they interacting? Are we picking up on some weird intuition thing about them that they don't want to talk about or shying away from? Like, a lot of it has come from that. And I think that's something really important in the hiring process as well, is like hiring off of that character. Obviously the skill set for sure. We 100% look at that. We just hired somebody who's being onboarded right now, and she had crazy skill set. But the part and the piece when I watched her interview was, yes, the skill set, we needed that. But on the other side is like how she cared about people and how she cared about the
Yeah.
culture is huge. So culture to me is almost sometimes more important on certain positions than that skill set, because we can train in that. If you have bad culture, it's going to affect everything else in your organization and not have like team connection. And so I think that's a big one that I look for.
But isn't culture kind of top down where you guys set the tone for the culture if that's the case, how do you transmit that? I mean,
Mm.
how do you go about saying these are our values? This is
Yeah.
what, we're concerned about people. We want to make a difference, whatever the culture is.
Mhm.
It's not just by osmosis that people
Yeah.
get culture. Did you have to come up with a plan or a method to convey and set a culture for everybody?
Yeah. And in those early days, we didn't because they all came through the program, which would give them the culture. But as soon as
Ah,
we started hiring outside and starting to really grow, we did develop like mission, vision, value statement. So here's where we're going. Here's our ethos of what we hire, fire, and reward over. And so those are things we say every single week with our team now because it takes time for that to get in them. And we actually went through a process. I think maybe 2021 we actually
Yeah.
developed it with the team. So it was really fun to be like, here's like, we're visionaries, we have a vision, but we kind of brought
yes.
them into the process to like, let's make it your language too. Let's come up with like our language around these things. What do we want to be known by? And so it gave our team more ownership. And that is really on every team meeting, it's brought up. We have a document, we show it, and
Yeah.
we do ethos shout outs, we call them. So every week
Yes.
we're like, Melissa, I saw that you were a caretaker of the team. That's one of our things that we're known for. You took care of this person in a really unique way, and I just want to celebrate that. So
Wow.
every week we're saying it because
Yeah.
culture is, I think we're looking for resonance, right? They might not fully have our culture. We're looking for like they're not repelling it, they're resonating, and then it's caught. Culture is caught, and a lot of times you have to lead culture by just saying it a lot. It sounds like you're saying things a lot, but it's just like I kind of think of it like think of a country going into a country and catching their culture, right? There's some cultures that are so different that it's going to almost repel you, right? But there's some cultures you can almost come into
Mhm.
because it's like, wow, this culture, like, I think of our Filipinos. We have a lot of Filipino hires. Their culture is like actually very similar to America, as opposed to like India. We've hired some people from India where the culture is very different. And
Right.
so the Filipinos just like they come in like so easily because the culture is similar. And then you catch it over time and it gets
Mhm.
deeper and deeper.
So the next thing, before we run out of time, I really want to talk about one thing we talked about offline that I want my viewers and anyone listening, I think would benefit so much from. We talked about growing an organization, and as it grows, what are strategies to set up the model where everything is not coming to you, but yet you are still have your finger on the pulse, but it's not you're not the marketing head of HR head of. Tell
Mhm.
us about how you went about developing that model and what that looks like, and what kind of success you've had setting up an organization where you're in charge, but you're not everything is feeding up to you. I'll let you take it from here.
Definitely. Okay, I got 3 ideas, 3 tips. And this is really, I think, the difference between a 6 or 7 figure business and an 8 figure business. Of course, there are some outliers where it's like the solo entrepreneur who's crushing it with some software, right? But I would say a lot of it comes down to releasing control. When you're in the early days of your business, you're very scrappy, you wear all the hats, you're doing all the things.
Yeah.
And as you grow, you have to learn to systematize, and that's really my jam. Systematize what you're doing so you can level up and hire people or bring people in to support those things and do them well, and so the 3 things that have really helped us a ton, and some of these we learned from mentors. A lot of it came from the book Traction, which is, I mean, it's like the best playbook I think for building an organization. It covers this thing called the EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System, and it has everything in there about like how you run meetings, how you keep KPIs and things like that. So what really helped me as someone who like loves to see everything and like, like want to have my hand in everything. I think, I guess the first thing we come back to is why. When you look at our org chart of our organization in like 2021, right? We had this big growth in 2020. 2021 was really like, we hit a wall with like, my capacity. And if you looked at the org chart, it was like, me and Chelsey, and then like every single person on the next line.
Which
And
is not a
so,
good thing.
yeah, everyone was reporting to me. Everyone's sending me messages, and we're doing this all virtually on Slack. So my just days were just overextended, and we really were like, we need structure. And we found the EOS model, which is a model of raising up team leaders, having teams underneath them, and running a cadence of meetings that helps you as a leader really just meet with your inner circle of just like, these are my top team, right? And they're bringing me everything from the organization. And so we started to
Right.
make that shift. And so the 3 tips. Okay, the first tip was the scorecard. We talked about that earlier. The scorecard is my favorite part of the meeting, and it's the part where everyone in the company has a number. Okay, so we kind of think of like, what's a number that represents, are you making an impact? So for our coaches, it's it's like products launched, right, for their student. Or for our customer support, it might be number of tickets resolved this week, right? So like, what's the number that kind of represents impact? And we like to think of numbers that help us kind of predict the future a little bit, right? Like how many leads came in this week? That helps us predict how, fulfillment's going to be a month from now. So everyone has a number. They report those numbers in their meetings publicly in front of everyone. They set goals every quarter for that number. Hey, I want to get this from 1 to 2 or 2 to 4. And they set it publicly. Then they're held accountable every week saying, on track or off track, what's your number? And then all those numbers come from all the teams up to a master scorecard that we have. And in 15 minutes, we can literally look at the whole organization. They mark it green if it's on track. They mark it red if it's off track. And we can literally see like, how are we doing today? Is it all green? Is it all red? Is it 50-50? And that gives you an area as a leader to like, oh, wow, this department is constantly red. Like if we get a red 2 or 3 weeks in a row, we just know, okay, we got to lean in to that department, help come in. So that's the first tip, the scorecard. Second tip is that's really helped, end of week reports. I didn't talk about this one, but this one has been one that has been, I feel like, brought Chelsey so much peace because she like, it's hard to have 2 leaders of a company and do it as married couples because I'm doing a lot, she's doing a lot. And then like at the end of our day, we put their kids to bed and it's like, what happened? And you want to like catch up with each other and it's just almost too much. And so the end of week report, we have everyone make a quick 2-minute video of like, what were your wins this week? What were your struggles this week? And what do you put in your hand to next week? Basically, that's our format. Very simple. And they all send these videos into our operations manager, and she makes one video out of kind of like a summary of all of them to give us the highlights. And so that's a great way.
She clips the videos together, or she just summarizes what the video said?
She puts them in a document and kind of walks through in about 15 minutes, but we're getting updates from, 75 people and their team leads and all these things. So how we kind of do it structurally, just for your listeners, if they have tiers, it's like our first tier employees, right, who are not managing anyone, they are submitting on like a Wednesday. Their team leads are submitting their recaps of those ones to their leader on a Thursday. And then that would be Kimberly, our operations manager. She does the summary to us on a Friday. So it's an end of week report halfway through the week, but we get it on Fridays. But every week we're kind of like, oh, this thing happened with this employee, or this thing needs some help over here, or here's a solution over there. And so that has been such a cool thing to like the scorecard plus that scorecard happens at the beginning of the week. The end of week report happens at the end of the week. It just gives us a feeling of a little more control so we can coach those things at scale. And then the third and final one, this one's really quick, is the 1-3-1. The 1-3-1 is something that we put in our ethos as like, we're solutionaries always. And the 1-3-1 is something we do company wide. And we got this, I feel like I heard this from, I think, in a mastermind, this guy Jose taught about it. And I've heard a couple other people. So I don't know who came with the 1-3-1, but whoever you are, thank you.
Thank you so much.
But the 1-3-1 says you never bring one problem without 3 solutions and 1 recommendation. Okay, so you never bring one problem without 3 solutions and 1 recommendation. And so if someone ever brings a problem to a meeting or to a team lead, if they don't bring 3 solutions and 1 recommendation, we say, hey, can you 1-3-1 that and come back to me? And so they
hold on. Wait. So help me understand, what's the difference between a solution and a recommendation? They sound similar. So maybe you could clarify that. Because
hey, we're noticing refund rate is up to 10%, right? That's the problem. So I've come up with 3 potential solutions. Solution 1, solution 2, solution 3. And my 1 recommendation is probably solution 2. I feel like that's the best option.
So you're saying ask them to pick one of the 3 or the most. Okay, I got it. So
what it does, it trains them to, 1, be a solutionary and not just come to you with problems all the time. So they're starting to become an owner, like have an owner's mindset. but it also, as a leader, gives you insight into their thinking. Because what happens is sometimes they'll nail it. Hey, that's a great, I would also go with option 2, right? And you edify it and you say, that'd be great. Or you correct it. Hey, none of the solutions they came up are good, right? Or the one they're recommending constantly is bad. Now you know that person probably is not the right person for that role, because they're not thinking like you. And so we've had team members like this where when they first started 131, they would just kind of miss it. But over time, they started to learn to think like us, right? Started to learn to think the way we would think. And it gets to the point where now it's like, hey, I appreciate the 131s, but now you think like me, just like make the decision without me,
Right.
right? And you
I
give them
love
the
that.
empowerment.
No, I got to tell you, as I'm hearing this, I mean, this amazing advice. Listen, anyone who's watching this podcast and they just even heard the last 10 minutes and they can't make an impact in their organization, something is wrong. That stuff is amazing. People often wonder, why their company is stuck or why they can't get to the next level. That advice and other advice like that is what you need to get to the next level. I can't thank you guys enough. I know you guys probably talk about other stuff on other podcasts, but I think this will help your people and anyone that's listening to our show, because these are problems that everyone who's going to grow an organization are going to face. So words of wisdom. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed it. Probably could go on for another hour, but that is amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Before we let you go, Stephen and Chelsey, could you tell people if they're interested in learning about your Amazon business, learning about you guys, how can they find you? What are some good ways if they want to reach out to you or learn more about what you guys have to offer?
Yeah, we also have a podcast. So I'd say if you're a podcast listener, head on over to our podcast as well. That's the Rainmaker Family Show. You can find it on all platforms. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Rainmaker Family as well.
Yeah. I'd say too, like the Rainmaker Family podcast for all types of leaders. It's not all Amazon focused. That Instagram is fairly Amazon focused. If you want to see more of the CEO mind and behind the scenes, my personal Instagram, I've been putting out a lot more content around leadership, and that one might resonate more with your audience. And that one is at Steez Diaz, STEEZDIAZ. I'll send you a note on that one so you can put in the show.
Yeah, we will put everything in the show notes, so that'll be amazing. Well, listen, you guys have so much to offer. I hope people will take advantage of everything you guys have. You guys, amazing words of wisdom. One from having a lot of mentors that you've had, but also from your experiences. When you meld that together, you get the success that you guys are. And I really want to thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. We'll hopefully see you guys again. Thank you again for coming in.
Awesome.
And that concludes our episode of Baktari MD. If you love this show, please comment, like, and subscribe. Give me your thoughts about some of the things we've talked about, and then we will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.